If you could do life all over again, what would you do differently? Jon Gauger is the co-host of several national programs for Moody Bible, and when he asked more than 28 well-known Christian leaders the do-over question, their answers were open and brutally honest, and he returns to the show with more of his insights on this project.
Good to be
Welcome
with you.
back to the Harvest Show, Jon. Wow, it was just fascinating. I'll pick up where we left off yesterday. So you talked with these Christian leaders, and they were just open with you about some good, the bad, regrets, things they would like to do more of. Where did you come up with the concept?
Well, I think that must be from God, you know. I'm a naturally curious person, and Stephen, Valerie, I think he just sort of used that curiosity, and the book all came together.
Okay, so you asked them a number of questions. What was probably the most difficult question they found? I mean, you know, in answering.
I think regrets. I said, what regrets do you have? And there were a number of those. You know, people regretted things like leaving a ministry too soon before it was evident that God had called them to leave. Certainly regrets they have with regard to family, not enough time with kids. Ravi Zacharias said to me, interestingly enough, here's this great apologist known around the world, speaks on universities here and there. He said, I regret never having even one conversation with my dad in which I said, Dad, what was it like for you growing up? What was it like when you were a kid? He was sort of a serious, almost harsh man, so it wasn't natural to have that kind of conversation, but I never pushed it, we never had it, and now it's too late. He regrets that.
With respect to interviewing all of these Christian leaders and spending time with them, you know, on the phone, face to face, how long did this take to pull together?
More than a year. More than a year of conversations, all of which lasted about 20 to 30 minutes. As you say, some were in person, some were on the phone, all of them were recorded.
Share some of the stories that you gleaned from them. I mean, it must have been really interesting to sit there and watch them and listen to them be vulnerable with you.
I laugh when I think of Gary Chapman. Here's the author of the millions and millions of copies sold, 5 Love Languages from Northfield Publishing. Here's a guy, you know, who could be more competent than Gary Chapman, right? And in the chapter Life Lessons, he said, a life lesson I'll never forget. I've just graduated from college. I've got my degree. Spring me loose on the world. I'm ready for anything. And I'm at the time, he says, working at a print shop. And my job was to operate a little folding machine. Do you know, he says, I couldn't get that crazy folder to work for a couple of days. And it suddenly occurred to me, John 15:5, Jesus saying, without me, you can do nothing. I couldn't even run a dumb folder, he said. Interestingly enough, Johnny Tata, whom you know well, we asked in the chapter, what are you looking forward to most about heaven? She says, you know, most people would assume that having spent a half a century in a wheelchair, the number one thing I'm looking forward to about heaven is to jumping up and down and doing somersaults, and that'll be great, but that's not the number one thing. The number one thing I'm looking forward to in heaven is never having to have another harsh word with someone, never another selfish thought, never a need for an apology, being free from sin. So that was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool. And I was going to ask you about that chapter, the last chapter in the book, you know, the one thing that you're looking forward to most. What were some of the responses to that?
Well, a lot of people said, you know, I'm looking forward to being with Jesus, you know, obviously having a conversation with Jesus. Tony Evans said, and I like this, he said, I'm looking forward to seeing some sort of a heaven version of video replay of some of the great moments of the Bible, you know, the parting of the Red Sea. I want to see it
3D surround, you know, 360.
You know, HD, you know, or who knows.
Jon, it's always interesting to talk with well-known leaders, to talk with these people, to find out, you know, some of the good and the bad, the decisions that they've made. But what's the takeaway for everyday people who are watching us saying, you know, I want a do-over in life and that's not possible, but how can I pick up now and improve?
Yeah, well, you asked the $1,000 question right there, Valerie. We can't go back. We can't. I like one quote in the book is, you know, what might have been does not exist. So why bother even going there? One takeaway would be, when we sit there and indulge these memories, it's like releasing the same brain chemicals that happened the first time when we made the mistake. So it's like we're remaking that mistake. We talk about regrets being like scars of the soul. When I was 15 years old, I had major surgery on my back. I was cut open from my waist all the way to my neck. And after a 2-week period of being flopped every 4 hours on a circular steel bed from my stomach to my back, They announce tomorrow is casting day. You're going to get a body cast. And by the way, your incision has healed just enough that you might feel an itching sensation tonight. Don't scratch. Well, that's like saying to somebody in the desert, you know, don't think about water. It did begin to itch, and so I did scratch. Well, you know what happens. It itches all the more. It's not an itching sensation. It's an itching warfare that's going on. And the nurse said, stop that. And I survived the night only by thinking through every Bible verse I'd ever memorized. But regrets are just like that. The memory comes back. We recall it. We itch it, right? Scratch it. And it scratches and itches all the more. But regrets are not where we ought to live. It's where we visit, but it's repentance where we go on. Another story, if I could. We were on board, Diane and I, on board the Africa Mercy, the world's largest charity hospital ship, 500 feet long. We're below decks, looking at surgeries in process, the wonderful work that these people are doing, mercy ships. And day one, I run into a girl who's been severely burned. She has been the victim of a fire in her hut. And she's on board the Africa Mercy to get some reconstructive facial surgery. But when you pass her in the hall, it's jolting first time because the disfiguration is so severe. I think I said hello that first day. I don't remember. The second day, I certainly did. The third day, I got her name. The fourth day, it was small talk. And the fifth day, it was almost like you didn't even see the scars. We were just two neighbors on the same floating ship in a harbor in Monrovia, Liberia. Do you know God sees us that way? We've got the scars, they're there, but he doesn't see them. As far as the east is from the west, so far has he removed our transgressions from us. That, I think, is the ultimate good news about our regrets.
Is there a particular chapter or topic that, I mean, you've just spoken very passionately about regrets, but is there a particular chapter or topic, and if I could do it all over again, that has ministered to you the most?
Certainly that one about regrets, that we don't have to be defined by our regrets. You know, we serve a God who's all about do-overs. When our granddaughter Jocelyn was not quite as steady on her feet as she is now, she was out with us at our camper. We've got a little set of wooden steps built up there and a platform at the top. And one day we're out at the campfire and she's inside the camper. She comes out of that camper, and as little tots are wont to do, she gets one foot not quite right and she goes tumbling down these steps, just flopping into the gravel and the mud. And we jump up. Is she breathing? Is she alive? Did she break her neck? And she kind of pulls herself up and dusts herself off. And through her tears, she hops right back up on those steps. And she announces, "Now let's try that again."
Wow.
And just like that, boom, 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 she walked down those steps without incident. I think Jesus wants to say to every single Harvest Show viewer today, you've got regrets, but let's try that again. Let's try that again. It isn't over. Let's try that again.
What about this? A principle I'm desperate to pass on. What did they say?
Well, a lot of people were very interested, of course, in their kids knowing who Jesus is, that he's the supreme ruler of the universe. Tony Evans said, I'm desperate for my kids to understand that they have to serve God with the totality of life. You can't pick and choose the areas that you want to submit yourself to. You know, it's all of life. Those would be a couple of the responses that come to mind.
And what's the big deposit, the takeaway, the seed that you hope to sow into the hearts and lives of the readers when they go through If I Could Do It All Over Again?
Well, when they read If I Could Do It All Over Again, they're going to read a collection of 28 people who are well-known, whose books they read, whose songs they sing, whose sermons they hear, but have also got regrets, have also got mistakes. And I think that's refreshing. It's disarming. It says, hey, if they've blown it, and I've blown it, and God's using them, then God can use me. That's the encouragement, I think.
Wow, this is so powerful. Thank you so much for joining us. It's called If I Could Do It All Over Again. Christian leaders share the most important lessons of their lives. To connect with Jon, go to doitalloveragain.net or go to harvest-tv.com for his new project, Do It All Over Again. Coming up later, Pastor Charles with your prayer requests, but up next, Brian Bush with the latest news from Israel. We'll be right back.